Good morning, Anarchy Land. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you were warm, dry, and well. We were cold, snowy, and extremely cold. Alright, this is our America How Free Are We Really series. Book Essential Karl Marx, edited by Leon Trotsky. Now, I want to remind you, this is about learning why Marx and Engels came up with their theories, and eventually communism. It's about learning how countries like Finland have embraced capitalism without losing the socialism benefits. So, let's go. This is going to be a continuation of the one we did last week. Here we go with the cat, by the way. This section was to bring back yesterday. As hard as Roosevelt tried to look like he was actually doing something to help affect those affected by the Great Depression, he was actually being hypocritical, being that he just didn't really know enough about what was going on. Roosevelt, if you don't know, was confined to a wheelchair with effects of polio. So his wife Eleanor did a lot of the traveling for him. Now, his problem was he would praise capitalism with one hand and slap it with the other. That was something that the former director of budget for Roosevelt, Professor Lewis Douglas, noted had to stop. You either praise them or you don't. And then he wondered why people thought he killed socialism. He didn't kill it. Capitalism. Sorry. It's Monday, it's early, and I've got Antonio home sick again. There you go. Scientists and Marxism. On December 7th, 1937, Dr. Robert A. Milken, a leading physicist at the time, made the same argument for capitalism regarding employment that we hear today. Okay, remember, the employment numbers are a scam. You take a part-time job and then you take a second part-time job, you are counted twice in the employment numbers. If you are receiving unemployment benefits and looking, you are considered employed. If you are receiving unemployment benefits and not looking, you don't count at all. Think about that for a minute. Those who are not looking because they know there's nothing in their field don't count. Unbelievable. Also, he made the same tired argument against socialism. It doesn't work. For the bourgeoisie-minded scientists believe they are above socialism. Quacks then are the same quacks today. What they don't like is if socialism ends exploitation. It ends wars. And that is bad for a war-happy country like America. Okay. Productive possibilities of private ownership. From the beginning, Roosevelt's plan was half-cocked at best. It wasn't until the Communist and Socialist parties of America got after him did he actually start to do something and do anything regarding the unemployment. That was their first demand. Jobs, food, shelter, clothing. But jobs were number one. His plan had holes you could push elephants through, okay? Let's just be honest here. His original plan was for his bourgeoisie capitalist friends to provide the jobs. When it came clear they were not going to do this willingly, he took another path. He taxed them by their means. Which meant if you had 5 million, 2.5 was going to be lost to taxes. That's just that. During the USSR, while I was growing up here in America, we heard about food lines. Never mind the food lines, we wait in at the checkout, and if you ever been in Walmart on a Friday evening or Sunday afternoon, you're going to wait in a long line. Incessantly long line. Even the quick checkout 20 items limit is going to be long. The self-checkout lines are going to be long. So we have food lines here too, in one form or the other. We were told there was lines for everything except jobs. Now what we were not told was it was illegal to work. Not to work there. There were apartments with shared kitchens and bathrooms. That's what we were told about. We're not told that companies like American Airlines, okay? They had an airline company in Ukraine I found out about from Sergy Sputnikov. I can't remember the name of it, but let's take American Airlines, okay? They have maintenance people, right? That work on airport. So, if they owned a building with apartments that you can live in, you cover the cost of electric, maintenance, at a fixed cost, you can live there. Now, there'd be a line, kind of like the lines we have for public housing. Yeah, Section 8, there's a line. Now, you get moved up if you're homeless. But that's the only way. Sergey talked about how veterans were given preferential treatment. Unbelievable. Can you even think of a time when veterans here were given preferential treatment? According to Sergey, veterans were the first citizens that got their choice of new products, like new apartments, new cars, new radios, and yes, the cars would be, an apartment would be altered for them. Now, something I was never told when I was growing up is that you could get this thing called a mortgage in the Soviet Union. I had no idea until I seen a video Sergey did where he talked about how his parents had to come up with $2,000 down, the equivalent of $2,000 down, for an apartment. It blew my mind. People could get a mortgage in the Soviet Union. We were never told this. Just like we were never told that they could buy products like mayonnaise were in little jars. They were sealed. They were in little glass jars. And then when his mom would be done with it, she would clean it real good and take it back. And then she'd get another jar. They had to take their own containers for things like cottage cheese, sour cream, for ice cream. They took their own containers. Do you realize how much stuff they eliminate from the landfills? Those pesky communists being environmentally friendly ahead of everyone else. How dare those bastards? Now, also what we never heard about was homelessness in Russia, because there really wasn't any. You either had an apartment where all the facilities were shared, except for your private living quarters, You lived in a different type of apartments they had, where there was private bathroom and kitchen, or you lived in an apartment that your workplace owned, or you had a mortgage for an apartment. That's how it was. Now, the inevitability of socialism. Trotsky noted an observation of why socialism is inevitable everywhere. While capitalism, exporters and tycoons will cannibalize communities like Sidney, Nebraska, after the forced merger of Caleb's and Brass Pro Shop, because Paul Singer, that owned Bass Pro Shop, sued Caleb's so many times for so much money that they were forced to merge with the Bass Pro Shop. And then everybody that worked for Caleb's was immediately fired. The people who owned shares in Caleb were bought out, were told how much they were going to be bought out for. They weren't asked. They were told this was going to happen. You still think we're not a communist country? Here's another thing to think about. In 1999, when Hugo Chavez came into power in Venezuela, this was after there had been a horrific mudslide that left people either dead or homeless, or they were living in these little structures you'd see in India. The first thing he did was raise the literacy rates in the countryside. That happened in every country that went communist. So, the illiterate became literate. The people that did not have health insurance got health insurance. Now, once he helped these folks, he started building apartment complexes where they could live at no cost. How did he pay for it? Did he go in debt IMF in Washington, D.C.? Nope. He sold oil. Venezuela has an unknown amount of oil. It said they have one of the largest oil reserves in this part of the hemisphere. Now, one of the first things he did after doing the apartments was he paid Venezuela's debt to the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and Washington, D.C. off. He proclaimed, "Never again would Venezuela be indebted to outsiders." Then he began to make low and no interest loans to smaller nations so they could do the same. But that was more than Washington they could not have that. They were not going to have a nation not being in debt slaves to them. This just was intolerable. Hugo Chavez invested in his citizens, and they in return invested in Venezuela with labor. That's what a leader is supposed to do, by the way. The inevitable socialist revolution. Revolution, as Russia experienced in 1917, brought about major changes. Like I said, people who were illiterate were taught to read and write. Women were no longer punching bags to their husbands via the church's request. The church did not permit divorce. Women became architects, and some even took part in rebuilding Russia, both before and after World War II. There were tragedies, without doubt, and those are all we ever heard about. We heard about Stalin's death orders. What we did not hear about was that America, Japan, England, and France sent soldiers in to put the Tsar back on the throne. A little mixed personality, right? Yeah. Anyway. One of the first things, as I said, communist governments do, they understand if people cannot read or write, they can't really produce anything. They can't really work. And there's only so much farming you can do if you can't calculate how much crops to how many fields, It doesn't work. And they understood that. Now, Marxism in the United States, there was a time when all subjects were imported here. All of them. Over many generations, some certain topics became taboo to outright forbidden. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Don't even question it. What was it? Marxism. In 2016, that changed with Senator Bernie Sanders, along with Dr. Richard D. Wolff, who is an economical Marxist. Bottom line, he criticizes capitalism. Now, I've said before, Karl Marx was a economist. He was not a politician. He had no desire to be. Capitalism's ideal mirror. Capitalism is a knockoff of Britain's world denomination. It's kind of like pus oozing out of a wound, if you would. We now have American hegemony as opposed to British hegemony. Yet, the new boss is same as the old boss. Degradation, poverty, and starvation continue in a new form. It's as if the British world domination has been reborn. Only we're involved now. Alright, we got two more, then we're done. Mother countries and colonies. Countries across the world conquer other weaker countries for slaves, which is why this country will go after smaller countries like Bolivia, Costa Rica. They're smaller. They don't have the military might that we do. But they will not go head to head with another country that could stand their ground. They gotta weaken them first, like what's being done to China. Think about it. This virus has weakened China's economy to the point that no one can leave their homes. They're quarantined. Government ordered quarantine. Whether they're sick or not. So nobody could go to the ports to process paperwork. Their shipping containers full of what was edible meats. They're now not even suitable for fish bait. But now that Washington and DARPA have created a monster, a bioterrorism monster, it's come home to roost. And it's going to bite them square in their ass. Because it's spreading across the country at an unimaginable rate. So, this goes into the planned world economy. Once someone tries to plan a single economy, they should inform others of their plan. Inform them meaning to pitch the idea and get input. This, of course, is far too civilized for imperialism. Capitalists grabbed the military and delivered democracy to citizens. During Leon Trotsky's life, he understood that if countries were going to survive colonialism, they must band together. That would be easier if they were under one governing system. Yes, I said one governing system, such as communism or socialism. Either way, it would improve the chances of the smaller nations to resist the imperialists trying to colonialize them. Imperialists will offer liberation to citizens, such as in Syria and currently Iran. even if their liberation will be followed by fascism, but at least it's not socialism or communism, where the poor will get literacy, healthcare, and employment. So, I have links below that I will include. I hope you guys will go over and check out Sergey's channel. He is absolutely wonderful. I would consider him to be an authority in talking about life in the USSR, seeing that he grew up in Kiev, Ukraine, from 1970 when he was born till 1990 when it pretty much just came apart. He's seen leaders come, he's seen them go. So, I will see you guys tomorrow.